Uh-oh.
What?
Nothing. No, I had YouTube on and I did. The thing's always delayed. Well,
Yeah.
hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv. And boy, we got a ton of stuff to talk about today.
Yep. Couple of things, though, that I want to get off, which are basically clean the air thing. On the 24th, Memorial Day weekend, there is a Memorial Day concert at the Liberal Club. Obviously, the concerts are free. The food and beverage you'll have to buy there. The Liberal Club has always been a great supporter of veterans and of the community. So please, if you have time on that Saturday, go out there and spend a few dollars and enjoy the music. I just got that message, so I wanted to share that with you. The other thing is, as we know, there is a local businessman who is Mr. Positivity. And he talks down to people who say negative things about Fall River. But Mr. Positivity is the first person to come out and speak negatively about a city councilor who hasn't even served one day in office. He hasn't even been to one meeting yet. You know what? If you want to be positive about everything, be positive about everything. But don't go on We Suck at Radio or on Facebook and tear people apart because you don't like their politics. I don't like their politics. I tell them I don't like their politics. And I make it clear here. You have every right to say what you want, and I have no problem with that. But don't call other people down for doing the same thing.
Listen, now you're going to get me even more fired up than I already am because
that was my whole idea.
I'm sick and tired of hearing this bullshit label of positive negative. It's either the truth or it's not the truth. And when somebody points out something that's the truth, it's not negativity. Only political kiss asses. He's ripping them apart because he's up Paul's ass. Okay, is that being negative? Well, I think if you gave him a colonoscopy, you'd probably find body parts of his up there.
There you go.
Because this guy, listen, I've lived in Fall River my whole life. I lived in Fall River when we had people that were working. We had mills running. People could open their doors. People could afford their rent. This clown's going to tell me, this clown's going to be up Paul's ass and tell us that everything is wonderful. Fall River is a wonderful place. We have wonderful people in Fall River, but it is not a wonderful place. Take a walk up Pleasant Street and look at all those empty stores. 6 years, Coogan hasn't done a freaking thing.
That's right.
Hasn't done a freaking thing except put facades on buildings and paint crosswalks and give people like you shit. While people can't afford their rent. Now he's going to talk about affordable housing. Listen, these clowns, they're not even worth it. You know what? And I'm glad you segued me into this because I got a whole thing about what bullshit artists these people are. And I got proof positive here. I've been saving this for the show. I've been waiting for this on the show today. Okay, let's start first with the MBTA. Everybody else knows the thing's a total disaster, but Carol Fiola is still trying to spin it. And I'm going to show you can't read this again, but I can send it to anybody who wants. This is an article in the Boston Globe. Dear MBTA, googly eyes are great, but how about on-time projects and reliable trains? Okay? Everybody else in the state knows that this is a mess. And even the senator from New Bedford knows it's a mess. But Carol Fiola is still trying to convince you that Fall River is Wonderland and the MBTA is Alice. She can't tell the truth. Why doesn't she just stand up and say, well, we opened it too early. It's a mess, and we're going to try to do something about it. No, everything's beautiful. My hubby Kenny's got it. It's all under control. Don't worry about it. Googly eyes are great. Now, what's only the Boston Globe? Well, let's get rid of that one. Let's go to another one. Another bullshit Democratic horse shit. Okay, let's go. Now, Michelle Obama was on TV on her podcast complaining how, it was really tough being in the White House. We had to pay for our food. Does anybody out there not pay for their food in the White House? Michelle Obama was whining. This is what Democrats do. They're all rich, entitled nitwits who complain. They got it so tough. Michelle had to pay for her food. And when she took the airplane with her daughters, she had to pay for her daughters' seats because it was the first lady's plane and they don't get free rides. Isn't that terrible? And Michelle Obama's complaining. What do they got? An $8 billion house on Martha's Vineyard and another $8 billion house in Hawaii? But let me give you another one that I learned. This is why I keep this shit. After Obama was in office for 2 years, his net worth of $70 million, which is pretty good. You should be able to afford your food, went up to $1.3 million. So I guess they got a good deal on their food because his net worth went up to over $1 million. 1.3 million. Newsweek. This is a headline from
not
Newsweek.
reliable.
Who gives a shit? Nobody cares. This is what they do. But
now,
these
here's the
people,
for you.
These Democrats are so full of shit.
Just so our viewers are aware, every presidential family has paid for their food in the White House. Every one of them. And they paid for, the only thing they didn't pay for was state dinners. If they had a big state dinner, they didn't pay for that. But they paid for the food in their house. So every time Michelle Obama picked up the phone and said, send me up a chocolate sundae with whipped cream and nuts, and I don't mean my husband, and hang up the phone, she paid for it.
Yeah, but that's not the point, though. Yeah, that's right. He was POTUS not once but twice. You're right, though. But listen, it's the audacity of these people. What world do they live in? They're multi-millionaires. She's got a house. She's got a house in Martha's Vineyard that rivals Mar-a-Lago. They've got a house in Hawaii. And you're complaining about they charged you for food. How dare they charge you for food? How dare they charge you for food? It was so tough. She's like Meghan Markle, complaining all the time. But this is what they do.
Meghan Markle decided to correct the press today. She said, my name is no longer Markle. It's Meghan Sussex. I'm a Sussex now.
Yeah.
So she wants to make that clear to the press. She is no longer a Markle. She is a
But she can whine all the time. But this is what Democrats do. They live in a fantasy world. Michelle Obama is going to go complain about being charged for food when their income doubled while they were in the White House.
That's right.
And they got millions of dollars squirreled away. Now they've got houses that are worth billions, and they're complaining because it's not the people in Fall River who can't afford to who can't afford their rent and have to choose between food and rent. No, it's shut up, you serfs. And this is another one. This is what they cover up. Politicians lie. Blue cities. what fascinates me, and I'm going to ask you that question, and anybody, explain to me why all these big time talk show people are always complaining about, well, migrant crime. They always say, the Democrats say, well, migrants don't commit as many crimes as Americans. I don't know why one of these talk show hosts, whether it's Ingram, Hannity, Jesse Waters, or somebody, doesn't understand what a ratio and proportion is. We got what? Estimated 15 to 20 million illegals in this country. We have 350 million Americans. So do the math. You have to do that in a ratio of how much crime is committed by 20 million in that ratio to what, 350. But the other problem is the Democrats always hide the crime. We know that there's crimes being committed in Boston, and our governor and Wu are covering all. And this is a latest statistic from New York. Crimes committed by migrant, call them migrants, they were kind, illegals, between January 1st, 2023 and October 31st, 24. So that's, okay, a little over a year, so it's okay. So 3,219 migrants living in 48 city shelters. That's 3,000 of them live in 40. Were arrested a total of 4,884 times. 544 assaults, 497 cases of dangerous drugs, 493 grand larceny charges, 235 robberies, and 141 sex crimes. Did we ever see that on the mainstream media? No.
Of course not.
So, when you listen to these people, know that they never tell you the truth. I don't care what Carol says. This isn't just a bump in the road. The MBTA is a total and a mitigated disaster. So I'm on a rant. You fired me up. Because when I hear, and we got these people, you're going to attack Ricky Teat because he won't give Paul his way. So, right. Okay, you can say you don't agree with them, but don't go crucify him because he's standing up. He's doing his job. He's if he votes his conscience, that's what he's got to do. So,
well, this is the problem. Paul thinks he owns the city council. He thinks that if I say it, it's law, and that's the way it's going to be. You're not the freaking president, Paul. You're not freaking Putin, Paul. You're barely a teacher. And you're far from a human being. So get with the program.
And speaking of school, city council, wasn't there a recent article in a local media outlet about a former city councilor?
Yes. Former reporter wrote an article to dispute all the misinformation spewed by former city councilor Laura Sampson. Laura Sampson did not mention that she had clients with the former police department, but the former police department confirmed that she does. Laura Sampson did not confirm who her business partner was. How many people remember Timothy Mello? How many remember that name? I remember that name. Karma's a bitch. And if you remember, Chip, Laura tried to rip us a new one with lies and bullshit. And I'm going to tell you now, karma is a bitch. It comes back and bites you right in the ass. And that's exactly what it did.
Well,
Okay?
didn't they say something about her claiming that she went to the ethics committee and she never
Yes,
did?
they did. Well,
And let me make this perfectly clear. These
I
are
was just-
allegations right now. Fall River Reporter is responsible for their homework, and the reporter who wrote that, I would assume, can prove it. But
Yeah.
right
Well,
now,
here's the thing.
we are not making these statements. These were made in the Fall River
By
Reporter.
the Fall Reporter. Now, here's the thing. Okay? According to the Fall River Reporter, like me, they also could not get any information from anyone. You know why? Because none of them did anything. The law office for the city said, we have nothing and we can't tell you because attorney-client privilege. The mayor turned around and said, get it from the city clerk. They go to the city clerk, there's no filing. They get a hold of ethics, no such documents. You know why? They do everything verbally so there's no paper trail. They don't want a paper trail. Unlike me, who puts it in writing and files it 5 times over.
Yeah, but CJ, you know and I know when it comes to something as important as voting on a appointment or a contract, and you have a potential conflict of interest, you and I know about that, the conflict of interest law. I have to take a course in it. You know, being on a retirement board, even the perception. You're not going to tell me that if you're voting on something that she has these alleged connections with, that she should not have gotten a written statement from the ethics commission.
Yeah.
Right?
She should have gotten a letter from ethics.
Should have got a letter. If you don't have a letter, it means you didn't do it. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a noise? That's a great philosophical question.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, if there's no written documentation, you can't prove she did.
That's
and
right.
She should have.
That's right. And I'll tell you now, when she made that statement, I got this claim through ethics. I knew she was FOS. Okay? I knew it then. I know it now. Okay? Between the crap that you and I went through with Mimi Larrabee and Laura Sampson, because we're misogynists, they've proven they're misandrous. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to hear it. I'm tired of it.
I have a lot of women that will say that I'm definitely not a misogynist. And by the way, as our attorney said when they were saying that, even if we were, which we aren't, it's not illegal to be a misogynist or even a misandrist.
Now,
so,
as was brought to my attention by the reporter from the Fall River Reporter, Laura Sampson, all she had to do was sit there, cast your vote, and they would have had Furtado confirmed. But instead, she resigned. Could that be a benefit? Could that be a negative? I don't know. I mean, there's something rotten in the state of Denmark, and it's not the freaking cheese. Okay? There's something going on here where Furtado is all of a sudden the be-all, end-all for police chief. I don't know anything about the woman. I know absolutely nothing about the woman except what she's published and how she got her start in police. And she comes from a family of police officers.
And you know, the problem we have here is, again, they like to deflect and they like to kind of throw up a smokescreen. They make it about her and that you dislike her.
I was going to get into that in a minute, Colin. Thank you for posting the comment. Always better.
And yeah, but
Yeah, well, Colin, were the parents even notified? Were the parents even notified? Did the parents know this was going to happen? That's my big question.
Well, let's get back to this quickly because Florida City Council has a business partner who's a firefighter. No, well, they may have to recuse themselves from some votes. That's why you have to, if you study the ethics law, if there's anything where there could be a perception of something that's not ethical, you're supposed to get the ethics commission and get an opinion from them, and it should be in writing. You can vote on certain things to be perfectly accurate. We know that. CJ and I know the law. The thing is that it's like Linda Pereira saying she can't vote on something that's got to do with the retirement board, but she can. That comes from very reliable sources. She asked the wrong question. If you're going to benefit from something or get a specific benefit to you, it's different than if you're a group of 5,000 employees and that vote is going to give everybody the same thing, and it's a kind of a generic thing. It's not something that is in self-interest to you. That's being ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, yes, if somebody that's worked in municipal government, read the law. The law clearly states it has to have something that you benefit from.
It applies to everybody unless you're from Fall River, in which case, throw it out the window.
Yeah. And because you have someone, now if you're going to do business with that someone and with the city, now you got an issue. You do have an issue. That individual in that capacity does have an issue, and they're going to have to ask for an opinion. And that is variable. It's about an hour class or an hour and a half online. You can go to mass.gov and look at the ethics course, and you can go over the ethics course.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and that's the key. The key is that unethical behavior, and it's not just unethical behavior, that it clearly states that even if there's a perception, if people would think it's not ethical, you should get an opinion. That's what the law says clearly.
And it's not even the fact of whether it's ethical or not. If you give the appearance of it being unethical, you should recuse yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the appearance.
And that's what it says.
Is enough.
And that's basically what it says.
In the ethics training. It even says that in the ethics training. So I don't want to hear that.
Well, remember, in this city, we used to have sexual harassment training too. And once they got too many sexual harassment, their friends got accused too often. They got rid of the sexual harassment training.
Isn't that the truth?
They don't fix the problem.
And stuck it in a closet. It's in a drawer somewhere.
This is what you call a non-government government. Paul Coogan does whatever he wants. The laws don't apply. You cannot. You are restricted by you are supposed to be restricted by these things. Now I know that article said she asked for an opinion, but as I said, you know, they claim to be so sharp and they know everything, but you know, I learned a long time ago, you better get everything in writing, especially when it comes to ethics violations.
You know, the worst part about it is just look at Paul's history, okay? Gentlemen in the school department working on private vehicles for cash, pocketing that money. Does he get fired? No! He gets a promotion and a pay raise. Not the first one. This is how Paul manages his department. You kiss my ass, I'll give you everything. Paul has to have a special brush that he uses to clean his ass because he can't get around that much.
Oh, God. You know, you know, you can't even
You have to laugh.
rationalize the way these people distort everything and manipulate the thing and just violate
Yeah.
real ethical behavior because they don't care. Democrats you know, they twist everything and they ignore it's do as I say, not as I do. And you talked about the guy crucifying Ricky Teeth.
Yeah.
If he has an issue with Ricky Teeth on substance, not just the fact that he doesn't like his political stance, let him argue the point. That's what we're
Well,
supposed to. But you see, the other side doesn't get to argue.
Well,
The other side doesn't get to argue.
People on social media weren't happy, and they turned around and says, just because you don't like his color, just because you don't like his ethnicity. I don't know if any of that's true, but people were getting upset about it, and you can't blame them.
Well, I'm glad you brought that one up because I got something right now. I hope I can pull it up because this is I run around saving this kind of stuff. I want you won't be able to see this, but you'll be able to hear it. This is something about someone commenting about one of our Massachusetts Congress people who was always using the race card. Right?
Okay, I think I know what you're going to bring up.
You know it, Ayanna Pressley, right? Let's see if I can pull it up here. Wait a minute. Hold it. I got to get this. Never can figure out. Oh, okay. Here we go.
He was a proud and unapologetic black man fighting for equality for black Americans and all marginalized people.
I appreciate my Democrat colleague for exemplifying exactly the kind of oppression of freedoms that we're referencing. How about we'll quote whoever we want to quote? How about that's my First Amendment right? How dare a white Republican quote Martin Luther King? We actually had a congressman say that just now. Thank you, good lady, for once again exemplifying the type of oppression that we stand against. We will quote who we please, and we will continue to speak freely. I'm a veteran. That's the country that I serve. That's the Constitution I swore allegiance to, and that oath has no expiration date. I will fight for it with my last life's blood. For my right to speak freely and yours.
There you go. For my right and yours. You gotta they always play the race card.
That's right.
He cannot, how dare you quote Martin Luther King. We quote him all the time.
That's right.
He made great sense because what did Martin Luther King say? He didn't call everybody a racist. He said people should be judged on the content of their character, not
by the color of their skin.
These people are hypocrites. They're absolutely hypocrites.
They're Democrats.
That's right.
They're Democrats. That's the problem. I don't know, Colin, if you're still here, did anyone file a complaint on the school committee? I know that Colin voted against the transportation change, but that was a 2-1 vote because the mayor can't make his budget meet. And because he can't make the budget ends meet, he's going to take away something from the children. Now, I personally have had a problem with busing in Fall River for some time. I think we pay too much, and I think that it's abused. Because when one parent has a kid in a bus or a cab, they want all their kids in the bus or a cab. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Okay?
No.
If your kid has an SPED, an IEP, which says you get a cab for your child to go to school, that's for your child, not for your children. And I understand it's a convenience because you're too damn lazy to get your ass out of bed and take your kid to school. But guess what? If they cut transportation out as much as possible, down to the bare minimum, What are you going to do then? Ken Pacheco said it not that long ago in a school committee meeting. He has buses out there which is supposed to have 30 kids on it. And they got 55 kids on the bus. Because parents just keep loading them up without approval. That costs money. Money we don't have. And money that is not part of net school spending, which means it comes out of the city side of the budget. We got to pay for it.
I put that up. Yep. No, Colin, listen, you're always in there. You're always in there fighting. And this is the key. We get back to the way we started the show with CJ talking about character assassination of anybody who has a different political opinion. What that Republican senator said to that black congresswoman was right. We quote anybody we want to quote. They're the racists. That's right. The irony of everything they do. All the labels they put on other people, and really what they are, they're projecting that on other people. So if you took psychology, you know what projection is. Okay. So the fact is that everything they call you, how dare you quote Martin Luther King? Well, because he made sense. Even after he went to Mecca, Malcolm X made sense. And Malcolm X was one of the most aggressive black Muslims during the 60s. If you want to read something that's eye-opening, but he put the blame squarely on the blacks for not fighting for themselves. If you want to see something on YouTube, I believe it was 1964. It was in the mid-60s. He gave a speech called "Ballots or Bullets." Watch that. It's 54. It's 54 minutes long, and it's an amazing insight. And when Malcolm X made a pilgrimage to Mecca, he came back and he changed his entire outlook about what they were doing. He said, when I went to Mecca, I saw blonde-haired, blue-eyed Muslims worshiping with me. And he said something that was profound later on, and it's one of my favorite quotes. He said, I am for the truth, no matter who tells it. And I am for justice, no matter who it's for. That is what the First Amendment is supposed to mean. I'm for the truth, no matter who tells it, and I'm for justice, no matter who it's for. Malcolm X, one of the top echelon leaders of the Black Muslim movement. And you know what the radical Black Muslims did to him after that? They assassinated him. So they shot Martin Luther King. They shot John Kennedy. Apparently, that's what people in this country think you do when you have a different opinion. That is not what the First Amendment and this country was created to do. It's created to have all the arguments you want to argue. Argue on facts. You want to argue on personalities, don't deal with it. You want to call people names you don't like, they got a big nose or they got big ears, or that's got nothing to do with their political position. You can't be, but we don't have any good role models here. We look at Congress, they're like a bunch of children holding up bingo paddles and chanting, and then playing a race card all the time. Deal with the facts. Prove the other person wrong. I read you a whole bunch of stuff about Obama's finances. It wasn't from me. It was from Newsweek. We talked about what's the allegations against Laura Sampson. That's not from us. We're calling them allegations, but that was from Fall River Reporter. But we know if there's no record up there, we've dealt with the Ethics Commission enough, and we were called all kinds of names.
Yep.
And we were called, they even said that we threatened them. And so, this is the whole key. The Democrats love to say they're protecting democracy. But the first thing they do when they remove democracy and we have a Nazi fascist regime, they control the news media, which they do. They control the narrative, which they do. And they suppress free speech. Nobody can have a different opinion.
You're right.
No, it is. It is. It's this is so, and this is what really upsets me about these people who still call themselves Democrats. A lot of them have left the party, but they continue to cry about the Constitution and we're saving democracy, and they violate it every day. They want to control speech.
That's right.
They want to control. That is not democracy. When you can't have a different opinion, and I don't give a damn how ridiculous that opinion is. And the one I always cite is years ago when the American Civil Liberties Union was actually an agency that wanted civil liberty, and it wasn't a liberal far left organization. They actually went to court to protect the American Nazi Party's right to demonstrate and call down the Jews. And most of the lawyers litigating that case were Jews, saying that they had a right to say they'd like to see us all dead and whatever they want to say, as long as they don't do it. Because in America, no matter how ridiculous what you say is, you're supposed to have a right to say it.
It's definitely going to be interesting. To step back a couple of bit, South Coast Rail. There is a meeting tonight at 6 o'clock at the Wamsutta Club in New Bedford to discuss the problems that have been outlined by Senator Montigny and his audit of the MBTA. You notice it says Senator Montigny. It doesn't say Senator Roderick. It doesn't say Carol Fiola. It doesn't say Alan Sylvia. It doesn't say Paul Coogan. It says New Bedford. People out in New Bedford, they want to know the truth. The people in Fall River, lie to me. I love it. That's what happens. Now, they're having a meeting in Fall River. I can't remember the date. Pretty soon. And they want FRC Media, another super kiss-ass organization, as we remember it, of Paul's. And this is what happens. Okay? We're not going to get the truth out of that. And I don't know if they're going to get the truth in one setup. But this is what happens. They feed the line of bull until you eat the pablum and say, oh, thank you. Oh, you're telling me the truth. Meanwhile, they're stabbing you in the back.
Yeah, well, our man El Grande Americano, Newsweek is a liberal. I'm surprised. Well, don't you wish we were back in the era when news reporters actually reported factual news, not politically skewed propaganda? Because that's right. That's what you're looking at today. You get, we suck at radio. Paulie's on there, just running amok. All Paulie's friends are there. They get called on the show. Other people with different opinions get shut off, barred. Oh yeah, did you see the mic? Yeah, attacking police with glass and bottles and basketballs, and in New York, that's part of the crime that they cover up.
That's right.
If they didn't have a video of that, nobody'd report it. Just like those stats I read you from the New York City migrant shelters.
It's just like the dirt bikes in Fall River. We don't have a problem with that. We don't have a problem with the dirt bikes in Fall River.
Was there a dirt bike in your living room? CJ,
That's right.
You can't argue about it. Don't say anything about dirt bikes. Until they come up on your front lawn.
That's right. Keep your mouth
shut up. You don't have a bullet hole.
That's right.
Be quiet. You don't have anything. They live in, look at, you know who they live in? Now we can call it. They used to have Wally World. Now we got Michelle World. Michelle Obama, who's got a podcast. She's written books, and they're zillionaires. Like I said, they double their whining about paying for food in the White House.
Yep.
Her mansion in Hawaii and Martha's Vineyard, their mansion is probably worth more than the entire worth of the Flint. And she's complaining about paying for her food. We have to pay for our food. And my net worth hasn't doubled ever. I didn't take a job for 8 years and have my income doubled. I got pay raises, but this is the real world. They all live in this. They're like somebody said, it's a brain virus. There's something radically wrong with them. And as the psychologist Peterson said, who's a brilliant guy, he said you can't argue with them because they're delusionary. They're mentally ill. So it shows when a black congresswoman tells a white congressman that he can't utter a word that Martin Luther King said, even if the quote was germane. I mean, how dare you on your last quote on the weekend flush? You're not supposed to use those. It's like when I quote Gandhi or Martin Luther King, I quote them all. I mean, who can I quote? I only can quote people of my own ethnicity. I don't know. Maybe, Khalil Gibran wrote a lot of good stuff, and I can quote him. But, maybe we can quote Prince Henry. I don't know. But this is crazy. Look at the country that these people want. Michelle Wu covers up crime. The governor covers up crime. She misallocates money to illegals while we suffer the consequences in this state. New York covers up all this crime. All in blue states. And then they call us that we're destroying democracy and we don't want the First Amendment. We're wrecking democracy. And, they should have freedom of speech, but we don't have freedom of anything. We can't have any different opinion. We can't have any different view and argue. That's the way we move forward. Good debate, like in the House of Commons, is always a great thing.
That's it. That's it.
Our Continental Congress was like there were fist fights breaking out when our country was being formed. That's the way things are done. Your idea, my idea, maybe we come to an idea in the middle that's better than both of our ideas. That's the way a society progresses.
Well, here's the way we don't progress. A school committee candidate has decided unilaterally to put a community garden in a city park in the Flint. Now, I don't have a problem with community gardens. But who's going to guard them? Who's going to protect them? Because you know what's going to happen overnight. Somebody's going to come through and rip them apart. Not everybody has community pride. And just because you're a candidate for school committee doesn't mean you can do that. And it looked like, according to your posting, I'm only making an allegation here, that you were campaigning in a city building. I hope not.
That's illegal.
Hey, it is. So I hope not. But it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see. And you're right. I'm looking forward to hearing the complaint from Kevin Aguiar as well. Somebody should go and get criminal complaints signed out for every single member of the school committee except for Colin and Kevin. Because they all need to be charged criminally. Because they're all criminals. They've all conspired. And conspiracy is a crime.
And
Make
look,
them pay.
listen, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? Cockle shells and silver bells and one effing tomato. So that's not the way. That's not what fixes Fall River.
That's right. And that's
Painted,
what people don't
painted
understand.
crosswalks and gardens do not help people that can't pay their rent. Can't fix the fact that 80% of the school children don't get a decent meal except when they're at school. Get your head out of your derriere and campaign on something for the people of Fall River. Our educational system is trash. Planting gardens is putting lipstick on a pig. You and Paul are good with that. So if that's your campaign, you're going to plant a garden and you think that's going to fix things, you must have a very difficult time breathing with your head that far up your derriere.
That's like the local businessman and Paul and Mike Dion, who turned around and thought that fixing windows in the Flint with paint and paper, remember they're glass windows, but they're going to use paint and paper on them, is going to fix the Flint. The fact that buildings' roofs are falling off onto sidewalks don't mean anything. I have a problem.
They have
a problem.
They have no desire to fix anything. These are politically motivated, window dressing, feel good, fuzzy. They tried all this crap in Detroit. They tried it in Baltimore. Baltimore's number one, the worst educational system in the country, the highest crime rate now, the highest murder rate, and they've been run by Democrats for the last 100 years.
And Paul's doing the same for Fall River. Yeah.
Paul's doing the same thing. He's going to do all the feel-good stuff, take all the little pictures, and that. By the way, Paul, repaint that sidewalk that goes across Pleasant Street to the Night Owl, to the old Charlie's Cafe, because it's already fading. So let's dress that up because that's done so much already for the Flint. I see all those empty vacant stores. They're all full because you painted that crosswalk.
That's right.
Maybe we can plant the garden.
Yeah.
Around the corner. That'll fix everything.
Right underneath King Henry, Prince Henry. Put it right over by the Prince Henry statue. That's where you put it. Oh. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. I like the new comments from the new people. El Grande Americano, thanks for joining us on Facebook. I kept watching for you on YouTube. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Because if you won't, nobody will. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Friday. I think we'll see you on Friday. I hope we'll see you on Friday.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. We got a last comment that I'm going to put out there. And you're right. Until someone gets charged with seriousness, all the crap will keep going on. So thanks for the comment. Curzon Way is cottage cheese. It's not that bad.
Or maybe she was eating your turds. I don't know.
There you go. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.